You're paying more for everything. A dozen eggs and a pack of bacon now cost almost 30% more than last year. Beef, pork chops, sugar, all up double digits. So what's the Biden administration's solution? Spend more.
Prices have gone up, and families and individuals are dealing with the realities of that bread costs more, that gas costs more. That is a heavy weight to carry. Build Back Better is not going to cost anything. We're paying for it.
Yeah, what about rising gas prices? Well, obviously go green.
The rise in gas prices over the long term makes an even stronger case for doubling down our investment and our focus on clean energy.
All right, Joy, I want to come to you first because, obviously inflation, you can have an off balance with supply and demand. That can be a cause. But also, when a government prints and borrows and spends money, that the money supply has increased by 36% in the last 2 years alone, that too will cause inflation. Does it make sense that we spend more money when we're seeing inflation rise right now?
I think the person we need to ask that question to is Joe Manchin, because it may all fall on his shoulders. And the people of West Virginia probably don't want to see that happen. I can tell you that, I come from a pretty small town, and it's not easy. It's not easy when the money you have in the bank is worth less from one day to the other and you don't have a lot there to begin with. And I think that's the part that people kind of gloss over. And I'm learning this myself. I'm not an economist. I mean, last time I had a job with math involved, I lost my leg. So I kind of keep it where I know what to do. But what I'll tell you is people sitting at home that only have maybe $1,000 in the bank or a couple $1,000s in the bank, and every single day that couple $1,000s stretches a little less, it's worth less, that's concerning. And when your vice president of the United States doesn't seem to be able to answer a simple question on it without looking incredibly uncomfortable, it's not so much how did we get here, the American people sitting at home are asking, it's what are you going to do about it and how are you going to fix it? And it looks like this administration doesn't have any answers for them, and that's scary. And when people get scared, then they pull their money back, and they're worth less money back. And then everything starts to crumble. So that's what we're worried about. Are we sitting on a housing bubble? They're building 1,000 homes between my house and the interstate. Things like that are worrying people, and they deserve answers. And if it's possible, action. And I don't know that a $3 trillion plan or $4 trillion plan or $1.5 trillion plan is the answer they're looking for.
But it's interesting, Joy, because they say that the answer to everything is government. But when you have rising prices, they have no solutions for it. But Emily, I want to go to you because I think it's fascinating, too. They're like, well, yes, there's rising energy prices and everyone's starting to travel for the holiday season. The answer to that is green energy, not drilling more in America or not opening up more pipelines, but green energy. Why don't we just produce more American energy for oil and gas?
I mean, the problem is, regardless how you feel politically, numbers, facts, and data do not lie. And that's something that I think this administration has yet to learn. To your point, Sean, you don't invest in green energy without shoring up existing energy that is the backbone of our current economics first. To Joy's point as well about the value plummeting of the dollar, every American feels at their kitchen table when the dollar is strong, when inflation is low. Average hourly wages have plummeted 1.2% in the last year, 1.6%. If you take into account the decrease in work week hours. Under the prior administration, contrast that, poverty was its lowest since 1959. And for the first time in a long time, Americans with low education, with middle and low income were finally sharing in the country's growth. We achieved more in a median income. We achieved more growth, 50% more in 1 year than we did in all 8 years of the Obama administration. And that is what the American people feel. They see when heat bills increase by $700. They see when gas prices increase 300%. So this administration needs to understand how to realize reality and the reality facing average Americans before they get into their esoterics and promise us a green future.
That's right. So, Aisha, Kamala Harris was actually asked about rising prices. Let's take a listen to what she had to say when asked.
Will this be the most expensive Christmas in history after the most expensive Thanksgiving in history?
As I said earlier, fully appreciate the significance of things costing more. It's a big deal. It's a big deal.
Yeah, so Aisha, it is a big deal, but again, there's no solutions for it. But I want to get your take on this, because it's interesting that you have Democrats in the House not wanting to vote, moderate Democrats not wanting to vote on this massive legislation. They're actually waiting for the CBO to come out and score this bill because they're concerned about inflation, which means they must not really trust the Biden administration when they say this is going to cost nothing.
I love the fact that Joey knows Senator Manchin and is following him very, very closely, because that's the guy that everyone's been paying attention to. And I'm surprised that Joe Manchin wasn't like the Halloween costume of the year, because he is a man of the hour. But you're right. He's not the only one. Him and Kirsten Sinema, they're not the only ones. There are a bunch of House moderates that are dragging their heels. I mean, ask yourselves, why did they now vote for both of these bills, a bipartisan infrastructure bill along with Build Back Better, at the same time? Why are they dragging their feet? It's because they don't trust the White House numbers. They don't trust what the White House is putting out. They want to wait for the Congressional Budget Office to come out with their analysis, because that is, I mean, the gold standard. And I just want to bring up, there are other analysis out there, including the Penn-Wharton budget model, which is nonpartisan, by the way, and it found that the nearly $2 trillion plan that the White House is putting out over 10 years, actually closer to $4 trillion. So there are doubts about what the CBO score is going to come back as. But again, don't underestimate the fact that House Speaker Nancy Pelosi had to decouple these two bills, which was really the only reason it was taking so long to get anything done, was because they had coupled these two bills together. The fact that she decoupled these two bills, I mean, really speaks for itself. It's because moderates are pretty much holding this bill hostage now until they get that CBO score. And so we'll have to see how they respond once it comes out.
Sean, may I just make a final point here really quickly?
Sure.
Just a reminder, which is something that the Democrat Party doesn't realize. Every dollar of the government is ours. It is our tax dollars that pay for this. So when the VP comes out and says, oh, this won't cost anything, costs are absorbed somewhere. They are never extinguished fully. And it is our tax dollars that pays for this whole thing. And that is the issue with the Democrat Party.
Yeah, you guys just watch this. The decoupling now means that the socialist left wing of the party has lost leverage to get this done. So, but good discussion, guys.
Yeah.